Hey guys, just a quick note before we begin that the show may contain spoilers and adult language, but that's just because we know how to have a good time. Stick around, you'll be glad you did.
You are here for me to enlighten you.
You ever act like this again, you're barred for life.
It's just vile and base.
It's kind of embarrassing.
If you know your lines, then you can forget them.
Oh, I get it. It's very clever.
Hello peoples and welcome to Esoterica Cinema, the podcast where we take films from the cinematic multiverse and discuss the hell out of them. I am Jason Peters, and with me as always is the man who was once allegedly caught by a paparazzo in the middle of a three-way with Angelica Houston and Jack Nicholson, Mr. Ryan Siebold!
What's up, Jason? How you doing, buddy?
How are you doing, you Lothario, you? Those rumors are anything but, from what I understand.
I don't know what that movie was doing, but Angelica Houston and Jack Nicholson really was as good as it gets.
She wasn't in that movie, but, you know, we can pretend she was for the purpose of this joke.
Find the hard way. That was, I don't know. I got nothing.
That was like at the height of like their, you know, their sexiness, if you will, like when they were a power couple. Like, I feel like that was kind of an anything goes situation, probably. Care to comment?
My favorite part was when Jack Nicholson turns to me and looks in the middle of coitus and says, "Where does she get all those wonderful toys?"
Oh man, so hey Ryan, funny thing, true story, this story was something else. I was really invested in it. I actually tracked down the paparazzi that caught the three of you mid-coitus. Yeah, and not only that, I brought him here on the show to be a third co-host for one day and one day only. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, say hello to Mr. Javan Aldridge.
Hi. Happy to be here. I'm sorry I had to go through such terrible things to be here, like catching this three-way happening. But anything to get to the ends justifies the means. So said the great Denzel Washington. Or Spike Lee. Or Malcolm X. It was Michael X.
So yeah, everybody, we've got there's three of us. We haven't done this before, and it's probably gonna get messy the same way it got messy between Angelica, Jack, and Ryan. So sit tight, and Ryan, why don't you give us a description for the movie we're gonna look at today?
Jason, we are doing a deep dive into Born on the 4th of July by Oliver Stone.
Oh wow. From
1989. AKA Love It or Leave It, AKA No One Wants to See How the Sausage is Made. This one was an odd one. Let's just get right into it. Rotten Tomatoes describes this as, in the mid-1960s, suburban New York teenager Ron Kovic enlists in the Marines, fulfilling what he sees as his patriotic duty. During his second tour in Vietnam, he accidentally kills a fellow soldier. Oops. He doesn't say oops, during a retreat, and later becomes permanently paralyzed in battle, returning home to an uncaring Veterans Administration bureaucracy and to people on both sides of the political divide who don't understand what he went through. Kovic becomes an impassioned critic of the war. Yeah, I have a lot of mixed feelings about this. I'm sure we all kind of do. I have a lot of mixed feelings about Oliver Stone in general. I'm sure we all kind of do. But hey, Willem Dafoe. So, cool.
Absolutely. And Javan, it's kind of funny because, you know, I mean, sometimes we get a little silly on this show. Don't know how many opportunities there's going to be for that. You know, obviously we'll have a ton of observations and what we think are witty comments, but, you know, not going to be probably as many yucks as there are in some of our episodes. So definitely looking forward to see what you have to bring to the table. And we're going to go ahead and get into this film right after we listen to this trailer for Born on the 4th of July.
I wanted to be a good American. I wanted to serve my country. I couldn't wait to fight my first war.
We got him! Look that
Let the word go forth.
the soldiers!
The torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans.
Your brother's a hard worker, Tommy. Win or lose. School, sports, life. As long as you do your best. That's what matters to God.
First off, young men, let's get one thing straight. There is nothing prouder as a United States Marine.
Our dad's got to go to WW2. This is our chance to do something. You should think about what you're doing. You could get yourself killed. Did you ever think about that?
Just help me, Jesus. Help me to make the right decision. Sometimes I just like to stay here and never leave. But I gotta go.
13,000 miles. It's a long way to go to fight a war.
Don't you know what it means to me to be a Marine, Dad? Ever since I was a kid, I've wanted this. I wanted to serve my country. I want to go to Vietnam. And I'll die there if I have to.
There's something happening here.
You gotta try and stay alive, okay? You hear me?
Exactly clear.
Chicago has an Alice in Wonderland quality about it. Things are getting curiouser and curiouser.
Come on, get up there, get up there. Keep going, come on.
Stop, children, watch that sound. Everybody look what's going down. There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their mind are getting so much resistance from behind. We find way to stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what one, two, three, four. We don't want you singing more. 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want you singing more.
People say if you don't love America, then get the hell out. I love America.
All right, now guys, Ryan, you alluded to it a little bit. I want to know, you know what, I'm not even going to preface this or lead you guys anything. I'm going to ask each of you individually, Ryan first, then Javan. What is your personal opinion of Oliver Stone as either a filmmaker in totality or specifically as a writer-director? Ryan, you first.
I've never really been a fan. Even his more macabre, controversial films like Natural Born Killers that a lot of people are drawn to, it was never really my thing. Wall Street was so-so. I appreciate that he exists and brings, these messages to the general public, but I think he's a capable filmmaker, just not really my thing. I think it's some people's thing.
Yeah,
not my
definitely. Javan, how about you?
I have to disagree with Ryan. I don't know who these people are, who he's their thing. But Oliver Stone's movies always feel like homework that I did not want or did not ask for. It seems like something that would take place while in a basement of a library, looking through microfiche. It's just not any trip that I want to take on purpose. It's like an overhead projector that you fall asleep on. I'm sure that he got his point across. I felt what he was trying to say. I just don't think he's an entertainment director. It's not entertaining to me,
Yeah.
but definitely a good one to get started on.
Definitely. So, these are some pretty fire takes, man. I mean, I think most people out there would consider Oliver Stone to be a very highly regarded filmmaker. I mean, this is a dude that's won multiple Academy Awards for Best Director and has a prolific career in cinema. Like I said, both as a director and a writer, does a little producing as well. And it's interesting that you guys say that because I've always been sort of on the fence with Oliver Stone. I'm a little bit, because he does have some hits for me. Like he does make some movies that I really enjoyed. And funny thing, spoiler alert, everyone, I actually really dug this movie. I really, really enjoyed it. And it sounds like I appreciated it more than either and both of you did. So we'll get into that in a little bit here. So for me, for example, like I think JFK is probably his absolute masterpiece. It's wonderful. It's like pretty much the only 4-hour movie that I can sit through, first of all. So points for that. I really enjoy Natural Born Killers. I love how over the top and crazy it is. And I mean, I think he used something like 24 to 30 different formats and techniques in that film. And when you're going to tell like a story that's as drug soaked as that one is, like that lends itself really well to those sort of experimental styles of at least cinematography, if not filmmaking in general. But then you get to his other movies. And the funny thing is, like, I'm going to say these movies, and there's going to be listeners out there that are absolutely aghast that we're saying that, you know, these aren't good movies, because I'm talking about films like Wall Street, which you guys brought up. I'm talking about films like The Doors, which people love. Films like Platoon. I actually have you guys seen Platoon?
I have not.
I believe I've seen bits and pieces of Platoon. Is that where they make Michael J. Fox take part in some...
I think that's Hamburger Hill.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I think that's actually Casualties of War.
That's Casualties of War.
It is Casualties. Ah, very good, man.
Yeah, right. Deep cut, yo.
I love Casualties of War. Don't know if I know Platoon.
Okay, yeah. No, so Platoon is like the film that won Best Picture, and it's so overwrought and ridiculous to me. Like, it's the one, like, he's the guy where, you know, it's got that famous sequence where, I forget if it's Willem Dafoe or Tom Berenger, but, you know, they get shot in the middle of the forest and there's like that classical requiem music and he's going down in slow motion where his hands go up and they get to the cover. And it's like, I don't know, man. Like, to me, like, it's so melodramatic, you know, and I'm not a guy who appreciates melodrama. So Oliver Stone can be really, really ham-fisted in a lot of these movies, you know, and even Scarface. People love Scarface, which he didn't direct, but he wrote it. It's fine. I didn't grow up on it the way some people did, but I thought it was fine. I don't know if you guys love that movie, but like,
but
it's okay.
But I will say, if you like Oliver Stone, how many times have you watched JFK?
I've probably seen it like 3. So first of all, I probably haven't seen it in a decade. I think I probably saw it like, you know, 3 times in as many years, or 3 to 5 times in as many years when I was like really into film.
That is a lot of
JFK. Yeah, no, dude. I mean, granted, you know, I mean, I wasn't sitting there the way Oliver Stone was, probably, you know, just like busting lines on his desk and, you know, with the chalkboard with all the red string, just going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole. But no, I dug it, man. It was a good movie.
I don't even know if Oliver Stone's seen JFK 5 times.
I can guarantee you he hasn't.
I think he has, and he doesn't remember that he did. Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's what I'm putting my money on.
I will say.
Oh, by the way, just real quick, I do want to throw out there real quick because I was shocked and I didn't know this. Did you guys know that Oliver Stone wrote the screenplay for Conan the Barbarian?
Now that's a film.
Yes.
What are we wasting our time on this movie for? We should have jumped right to Conan.
I'd like to change my answer about how I feel about Oliver Stone.
I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. It's so outside the rest of his filmography in every respect. But it was like, if not the first thing, he wrote the second thing. So apparently, as far as you're concerned, he peaked real early and it was all downhill from there.
Yes, that's back when he was fun. That's a guy I can get behind. Now, if Oliver Stone would make a movie about a barbarian, it would come with totally different energy.
Yeah, definitely. There'd be a lot of guilt associated with it, you know?
Now, if Arnold was in Born on the 4th of July, that would be a film.
I think some of the monologues would be a little bit less resonant, but it doesn't mean it would be less fun, that's for sure.
If I was knowing Arnold played Mr. Kovic, and then his mom tells him as a child, I see you someday giving a speech to everyone and everyone's going to care, and then I know that it's going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger giving that speech in the last half of this movie, I would just die laughing.
I'm dying laughing at the thought of it.
I had a dream
so basically
last
what
night.
both of you are saying is if this was a different movie, I would have loved it.
Just a different director and a different lead.
Took place in a different setting, you know, maybe with a different production designer, say.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, man. Let's go ahead and let's actually dive into a little bit further about what we thought about this film, start to back up a little bit of our positions here. So when the movie opens, because we're going to start at the beginning as we always do, we've got what I believe might actually take the Guinness World Record for longest opening credit sequence. I think it was like 19 minutes before directed by Oliver Stone finally popped up. So that was unexpected, I will say.
That man loved himself a double VHS box set. I'll tell you that. Working at Blockbuster Video, that's my one memory of Oliver Stone. Is all his movies were like double VHS box sets.
And you get fined twice for not rewinding.
So we've got this lingering shot of the forest. Tom Cruise opens up with some voiceover narration. He's listing off the names of some of his childhood friends as they play soldiers in a pretend war in the forest. From there, we cut to an Independence Day parade. It's now 1956.
Did we see a kid get hit with a brick in the head during that?
Did he?
I feel like they were fighting very realistically.
Man, things were different back then.
They definitely were. But yeah, I don't remember him getting like bricked in the head.
A kid gets hit with a brick in the head he's wearing a helmet. I wrote it down on my notes. I'd really like for you to go back, but it was like they were playing cops, robbers, and Reginald Denny. I don't know. But he definitely got hit with a brick. You should check it out. Sorry. You had to know that.
It was definitely intense. And that, sets the scene, obviously, for what's going to come later. All of a sudden, the actual war doesn't seem so bad. But there were a couple things that stood out to me. Ryan, I'm going to ask you this first observation. So you probably noticed, but did you see who, in the credit sequence, who was responsible for doing the score for this film?
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
No.
You didn't really... Was there a name that came to mind at all as you were listening to these very elegiac strings and whatnot?
No, now I'm curious.
Oh, wow. So if I told you that Mr. J-Dubs, that's right, John Williams himself scored this film.
My guess.
Yep. Just that's why it sounds like every Spielberg film you've ever seen.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, I didn't think much about the score. That's funny you bring that up. I thought it was kind of cheesy. I was a little disappointed. And seeing this was 89, I mean, this was smack dab between Jedi and all his Indiana Jones stuff. And he was probably just wrapping Last Crusade and getting ready to do Jurassic Park, I would assume. So
probably
this is like peak Williams.
Yeah. No, I mean, and here's the thing. I mean, a John Williams score is always like an incredibly earnest score, right? That's probably one of the best ways you can describe it. Like, he's never gonna, go through his Miles Davis on heroin phase, right? Where he's like trying to explore like the space between the notes and doing this like weird experimental Philip Glass score to like a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Never gonna do that. Very on the nose, but I mean, for that sound, if that's what you're going for, he's the best in the business. So
I'm pretty shocked I didn't pick up on that, to be honest.
Yeah. Now, Javan, this is this next thing is for you because I probably know what Ryan thinks. But so when this in this beginning credits sequence, all these kids are at this parade, and this parade is like popping off, man. Like, all of these kids are running down the street and they got fireworks and dudes are drinking beer or whatever. I'm gonna make a statement, and Javan, I want you to tell me if you agree or disagree with the following statement. Parades are boring as shit. Agree or disagree?
I agree.
Thank you, Mr. Javan.
I'm glad that they have gone the way of the dodo bird.
Why is it that you hate parades?
I can pick up on what's going on a lot sooner than it takes for them to pass by. I don't need to see. It'd be like looking at one picture for a really long time. And when you're a kid, and I remember being a kid around this time, and you're just surrounded by crotches. And you follow the wrong crotch, and you look up, and it's not even your parent. And it's a very confusing for a kid. They always bring you out there to look at it. And you saw it. You saw it 5 seconds ago. You saw it down the road. Your eyes work really well. So that's why I hate parades.
Fantastic. I knew it was a good idea bringing you on this show. So now, I mean, Ryan, I got to ask now, Ryan, what do you like parades, or are you contrary here, or do you hate them as well?
No, I'm not a parade guy. I'm not a stand-in a crowd guy. That's just not really my thing. I tend to agree with Javan's stance wholeheartedly.
I have heard that you can throw your own parade in Louisiana for about $300. I feel like that would be super cool. You can walk you and your friends. That would be great. But yeah, I haven't seen a great parade yet. Maybe we can figure out a way to make an exciting parade.
All right. So we've got 3 pretty strong anti-paraders here. So listeners getting to know a little bit about us right now. Let's jump back into the film.
The whole opening of this movie was just beating you on the head with nostalgia. This was just. I'm glad you used the word in your opening, ham-fisted, because I have it 3 times in my notes. It's also one of my 3 descriptor words. Spoiler alert. So, my 3 adjectives later. So I felt like I also did a little research on this.
Ryan, did you say ham-fisted?
Yeah, ham-fisted.
Okay. Yeah, ham-fisted. Oh, yeah, no.
And you guys both know this word. Okay, I got to...
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure both of us use it on this show regularly.
Yeah, it was ham-fisted nostalgia.
Which, by the way, it's not a pornographic thing. I know ham-fisted sounds like it would be something sexual in nature, but I promise you it's not.
You will not believe what came up on my phone when I Googled it, but proceed.
Was it Angelica Houston?
Wait till they get a load of me.
They call that a callback in the biz.
Yeah.
I did a little research on this, and this movie was, speaking of ham-fisted, was shot in white tones, red tones, and blue tones.
I know.
The white tones
I saw
being
that. Dear God.
nostalgia, the red tones being the drama and violence of war, and then the blue tones being sadness and morose scenes. This whole opening was white, shrouded in like a white mist or like a white filter or just even some color grading in post. But they make sure to let you know this was from days of yore. This was, I think, when people say make America great again, this is what, if they close their eyes and this is what they're picturing, was like the whole opening of this movie. The Yankees hat and the parade and the playing army in the woods. Throwing bricks at your friends, no repercussions,
In that parade shot, by the way, they go through the parade, and it actually is a beautiful scene. I'm not a film student, you two are, so I'm kind of the novice in this. But I did think it was cool that they went out of the way to show all the things from the time period. They even had some guys hanging out in leather jackets. They looked like they were about to sing how great it was to be a Jet. But it was it was cool that they showed. I did appreciate that shot where they take you through the parade and basically show you all the different people. No black people, but that is why that the good old days, as some people say.
Yeah. So now you guys aren't wrong because
Jason wants no part of that shit.
It's cool. I can say it, Jason.
Well, no. So. I'm just looking at the fact that we still are about 20 minutes into the film. I think we actually have more podcast than film at this point. So having fun, but we do have a movie to get back to here. So to your point, I thought the whole movie was going to be this overwrought, and maybe we'll disagree on this, but I didn't. So you're 100% right. Everything about the beginning is just so over the top. Everything's amped up to 11. Even just how excited the coach gets when Ron knocks the home run. He just absolutely loses his shit. He just won the freaking World Series. It's like his little league coach game. So, Oliver Stone definitely ramps everything up. But I thought that he did a good job of kind of scaling back a little bit as the movie went forward in that regard. Maybe not with regards to Tom Cruise's performance and the evolution of the protagonist, who kind of, starts to lose his shit and get a little yelly and theatrical in the performance. But I don't think that the filmmaking, it could have been, it wasn't Natural Born Killers, in terms of the way that the film was presented.
See, Jason, I disagree. I think that everybody, with the exception of Dafoe, Cruise, and maybe Keira Sedgwick, I thought this whole movie played out like community theater. It's funny that we're following Bowfinger with this because it felt like it was being directed by Bowfinger. And like all the actors and actresses were like just giving it their fucking all. Just putting everything into
There's
every
a lot
line.
of trying in this movie. Yes, everybody's
There was a lot of trying.
amped up to 11 for sure.
It was like John Lovitz in Saturday Night Live, acting. I just expected everybody walking off the set like, I'm in a fucking Oliver Stone movie. That's right, bitches. Where's the craft services table? Kicking things over.
Yeah, and also the celebrity cameos were fun. Seeing little babyface Steve Baldwin and Frank Whaley.
Everybody
and Kira
was
Sedgwick
somebody
and all
in this
those
movie.
guys.
That's my favorite Baldwin, by the way.
This movie had not one, not two, but 3 Baldwins, and none of them were Alec.
Had to come in under budget.
Yeah, right.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
3 for the price of 1.
Stephen Baldwin is he's the discount Baldwin.
Got it. Yeah. Kirkland brand.
He's second or third in the pecking order for sure. So, and we see them when Kira Sedgwick's character is actually approached by Ron, who asks if she wants to go to prom, and she says that she's already going with someone else. He gets, rightfully pissed off, goes and chucks something in the back, and, from there we learn that his family is both very large and deeply Catholic. And, he has this moment, and this I thought was super funny, and I'm sure you guys will agree with me on this. So, he has the scene where he decides not to go to prom. He gets on his knees, he looks up at his crucifix, he prays to God, and then he has like the aha moment and he stands up and then he runs through the middle of the rain and goes and like bursts open the door at the prom and walks through the crowd, separating the sea of people to Kira Sedgwick's character and like takes her and like has that dance. That's like 25 minutes into the movie. Like that's the end of everyone else's movie. But Oliver Stone can't say no to anything, right? Because Oliver Stone has to have everything and all of it, and it's all got to be ramped up. So, like, whereas most people would finish their movie with the run through the rain scene and, have the characters meet, he's like, nah, bro, I got you on minute 25 with that. I thought that was kind of ridiculous, and to your guys' point, indicative of how overwrought Stone can be. So
the first 19 minutes were the title sequence. So
true. How many times did you think that you were going to see Tom Cruise run in this movie, knowing his other movies and how he runs in every movie?
Maybe this was contractual. Maybe that's why they had to put it in. They're like, well, we need to get him running at some point. Well, he's going to Nam. We'll get him running there. No. We need him running.
Yeah. Yeah,
they
well,
even
and
have
I like
the little kid running around the bases.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Tom Cruise
absolutely.
is running.
And the funny thing is that, most of the movie, he's in the wheelchair. So they basically were like, nah, dude, we got to get him running when we can.
Right.
Maybe that's the entire reason they even did that when they did. Is he's like, I've got to have my running through the rain scene, but he doesn't have legs later or he can't use them anyway. So, like, we got to put this in minute 25.
Yeah, that explains all that.
I just feel like it doesn't matter with Oliver Stone. It doesn't matter what the question is. The answer is always going to be more, right? Like he treats emotion the way that Michael Bay treats explosions. Just the more the better, and ramp them the hell up.
Well, and in all fairness too, this was the 80s, which was a very more decade. It was a, decade of decadence. It was, Tom Cruise was coming off of, Top Gun probably around this time. I'm trying to think of what he was doing in between Top Gun and this, but definitely shirtless volleyball playing, was going on and riding motorcycles down the speedway and all of that. So, I just think that it was a more decade. I mean, that's what Wall Street was all about, right? Was kind of the decadence of that era, and Oliver Stone showing the manipulation of that. So, he's kind of playing into some of that era, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So from there, we cut to January 1968, and we're in Vietnam with Ron and the rest of his company, and very quickly, they end up attacking this village after being sort of persuaded by like a commanding officer. And they end up killing a bunch of civilians, including a number of women and children. Once they realize that they do this, they end up ceasing fire, but that's when they themselves end up being attacked, and this whole thing proved to be an ambush. So as everybody's being attacked by the Vietnamese, Ron is shot in the heel. He can't walk anymore, and, we see the helicopter go crashing to the ground. There's plenty more of that slow-mo and the John Williams swelling strings that we talked about. And then Ron gets shot in the chest, actually. It drops to the ground, and that's when he's picked up and saved by a fellow soldier, throws him on his shoulders, runs him out, and Ron is shortly airlifted out from there. He gets sent to an infirmary, and this is one scene that I actually liked. I did like the way that Oliver Stone presented the infirmary. Like, it kind of had like a horror vibe to it, a lot of Dutch angles, that kind of sort of sickly fluorescent lighting. You've got like the echo and the distorted voice effects. I thought that was pretty effectively done.
Yeah. I really liked the middle of this film. I didn't really like the ham-fisted nostalgia in the beginning, and I didn't really like kind of the way I won't say I hated it, but I didn't really love the way that it kind of beat you over the head with the message over and over and over again by the end.
Sure.
But what I will agree with Javan on is I don't necessarily also like the filmmaking style. The overacting at times. There were a lot of colored gels in this film, like Dagon style, like we talked about last episode. A lot of harsh blues and harsh oranges, colored gels in the background on wet pavement, the same way that Stuart Gordon did at Dagon. The music. We'll take a break here because this is around the time in the film when he's in Nam and all this is going on. They use a lot of the songs you're used to hearing from this era, but in cover band form. Did you notice that, Jason or Javan? So like I guess they couldn't afford the rights to any of these, so they would have someone at the bar playing a Bob Dylan song or Fortunate Son instead of
they had
having
his brother playing The Times Are Changing before he goes out.
Oh, yeah.
Which, by the way, to go back to his family, how many brothers and sisters did he have?
Like 19. What, at least 6, right?
Yeah, that was a large
all the brothers
Catholic
and sisters,
I
all
think
of them.
They would have a reality show today.
Yeah,
they absolutely would.
Yeah, that family hated 2 things: Playboy and condoms. That's what we learned.
Oh, his mother beat him with the Playboy. That's right.
Yeah, that was an embarrassing scene. Brace face Tom Cruise was caught with the old Playboy.
Absolutely. And, so from there, he's sent to the vet hospital, and that's where we kind of get the opportunity to see exactly the level of squalor that these sort of VA hospitals and veterans hospitals exist within. This place is a shithole. It's got rats, and there's urine everywhere. You got, orderlies gambling, don't really give a shit about the patients. And, Ron has to rehab in this place. And despite that, he actually does try to maintain a sense of optimism. Really, he's as determined as he was, even before he went to the war, that he's going to walk again, despite the fact that the doctors repeatedly tell him that he's not. And, we also get that there's a really gnarly scene, too, where he's walking around and he takes that fall and the bone ends up popping out of his thigh. That was
Joe Theismann-esque
there. Yeah. Right. And then, from there, I didn't quite understand the physics or what was going on there, but he's like placed in that rotation device where they have to kind of just keep flipping him upside down back and forth. And I guess it's a way for them to keep his leg, because they want to amputate his leg. And
it's something to do with drainage.
He's like
they
really
had that
insistent. Yeah, I think it had something to do with draining it, maybe keeping it fresh and rotating it. I definitely not any sort of medical expert here, but
I think when you get that nasty of a break, you have the chance of losing your legs, which he was very adamant about not having happen. Even though his legs were for decoration, he wanted to keep them because of all the shoes that he had.
That's just it. He's just a really big fan of shoes. I missed that part, but it actually makes a lot of sense when you put it that way. So yeah, and of course that starts to affect him a little bit mentally. From there, we jump forward. So it's now 1969. He's sent back home. As we've just discussed, he has both of his legs, and all of his family and his neighbors come out to greet him, give him the sort of hero's welcome. His mom's obviously taking it a little bit hard. Now, guys,
which was interesting because she said it was God's will that he go to that war beforehand.
Yeah. So I guess it was kind of just one of those things where it's one thing to speak about it in theory, but it's another thing to see it in person, right? I mean, we've seen that in a number of different specs in a lot of different ways. I would imagine it's probably something like that. I did want to ask you though too, because you guys have definitely come with your share of criticisms. One of the criticisms I had, and it might sound weird. I guess this is kind of why I want to see if this even kind of makes sense to you. But this movie, so it's based on a book, right? And I don't know why, but there were certain times where it actually felt like it was a retelling of a book, right? And if I have any criticism of the film, it's just that it doesn't necessarily always feel super cohesive. The best way that I can put it is to use a music analogy, which is to say that it's the movie equivalent of listening to the greatest hits compilation instead of hearing the original LP. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, a little bit.
Did you feel that way at all, Javan?
Yes, because you were expecting it to be entertainment, and it was more we got a lot of material to cover. We got to say all the stuff that happens to this guy in a short period of time, and it didn't always feel like they were trying to be entertaining. But it was Ron Kovic's life, so I'm basically saying his life wasn't entertaining the way they told it.
Sorry for all of your trials and tribulations there, Ron, but could you make it a little more entertaining for the audience,
you tell
please?
That story better.
That's on Oliver Stone, though. And that's why that takes me full circle to what I said in the beginning. Oliver's not really my speed. I just felt like again, it was cover songs by cover bands, so you don't get, the big, awesome Vietnam War era movie soundtrack that we're all accustomed to. All the actors were overacting. You're jumping around a lot, to your point, Jason. And never really kind of finishing one thing before you're starting another, per se, which may be kind of what you're saying, but that's kind of how I took it a little bit. You're kind of bouncing around, and you never really get to let one thing sink in. Now, the VA clinic, like you said, that was powerful to me. The way he was being treated when he goes home. But I also feel like, I don't know, I feel like I'm looking at this through 2021 eyes, where we're all kind of cynical and we know what the government is up to, and we know a lot of these wars have not been legit, and the Vietnam War and stuff. And so though this is a tale about someone who was kind of hoodwinked into going to Vietnam under the wrong circumstances and thought he was going to be Captain America and ended up doing things that, he didn't realize that he was going to be asked to do, like killing women and children and civilians and being put in compromising situations. So when we go back and he's talking about, it's God's will that I go to this war and this and that, it was hard for me to take that, golly gee, Tom Cruise from the 60s seriously, even though a lot of those men and women, maybe not women, men that were going to war back then felt that way. It did kind of feel out of place. I don't know. Did you guys feel that way at all, or was that just me being cynical?
Well, no. So that kind of actually brings up one of the things that I really liked about the movie, which is I feel like a lot of the story elements and dispositions of the characters at the beginning are really in service of the back half of the film, right? They're setting it up so that the character can have this arc. Right? Ron himself starts off as this gung-ho, like you say, Captain America guy. And then by the end of it, he's going to be the long-haired hippie in the wheelchair who's critical of the government. Right? And even there's that earlier scene where he gets... Yeah, and there's there's even that earlier scene where he gets really upset with his brother for taking, the anti-stance and sympathizing with the protesters. So in the following scene, for example, it's the July 4th parade, the Independence Day parade, but it's like, however many years, 10, 15 years later, and Ron is going to participate in it in the form of a ride-along where he's going to be one of like the wounded soldiers that they put in the back of the car and they drive down the parade. And it's an obvious callback to that initial scene that we discussed with the parade, but with an entirely new veneer to it, right? Because now it's the 60s, and instead of it just being, uninterrupted patriotism, so to speak, now it's like, well, people are questioning why we're in this war, and so you've got the hippies that are sort of yelling at him because they don't agree with why they're there, and we start to see it dawn on Ron's face, where he's kind of confused by this response that he's getting. He doesn't really quite understand why people aren't just celebrating him with no strings attached, so to speak.
Right.
And I thought that
we
the
find
movie...
out that he did 2 tours over there. When he was in Nam, he said, I'm on my second tour, and I haven't, when he talks to the, we didn't even talk about this, but a major catalyst in his arc that we kind of skimmed over that deserves to go back and be mentioned is that in that firefight, when all that nonsense was happening and he was in shell shock from killing the civilians, he also ends up killing in friendly fire one of his subordinates in the military and one of his fellow Marines. And that is really more than even losing the use of his legs. That I think that fucks him up more throughout the film. That he saw men and women sacrificed for freedom, and then comes back, and this is how in America how we're dealing with it, and treating these veterans this way, himself included. So it's not the America that he left, that he remembers.
Real quick, I think it's also especially powerful that he just finished assuring this kid that he'd never seen a boy from Georgia get hurt. And then he promptly empties an entire clip into him as he dives over a dune. I think that is maybe as big of a problem for Tom as the loss of his legs.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, we're talking 100%. About the parade scene. One thing that I did notice about this particular scene, and it does make Oliver Stone a good storyteller, is at the very beginning of the film when there's a parade, you can see that there are gunshots and that the soldiers are flinching at the gunshots. And when Tom has his parade, he is now flinching at the gunshots, which is something that I don't think any of America notices on every 4th of July, how it affects you differently. So we're seeing that he's different than the kid that was letting off shots at the beginning, and I thought that was pretty powerful.
The old plant and payoff. I will also say the gentleman that you're talking about in the wheelchair that's flinching at those gunshots, or the fireworks rather, in the beginning parade, is Ron Kovic.
It's the real Ron Kovic.
That's the real dude. Yeah.
Oh, crazy. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, and then carrying over from that, because he ends up... So he's basically, after the, driving part of the parade, he's invited to go to this stage that's set up at a local park to speak. And he gets up there, but he very quickly has a flashback because one of the sounds that he heard when they were attacking those villagers was obviously the screams of the child. So much in the same way that you guys are talking about with the flinching at the gunshots, he hears a baby in the crowd start crying. That triggers the memories of him being in Vietnam, and then all of a sudden he can't get outside of his head, right? That's all he can think of. He doesn't end up being able to deliver the speech, and they kind of have to carry him off stage. So I thought that the movie did a good job of constantly bringing us back to that, and doing, like you guys were just talking about, a lot of those callbacks and reminding us that, these experiences, these traumas aren't anything that leaves you at any point in time.
Tom Cruise in this film was fantastic. He took this film on his shoulders and carried the shit out of it. This is not, how do I say this? I really love the middle of this movie where Tom really lays it down and puts you in the point of view of Ron and everything that a veteran in general went through at that time period. This is also a story that I take very seriously. We make our jokes on this podcast and we try to make it silly and fun. This one, I think all three of us said before we hit record that this was going to be a hard one because the topic is something that's kind of near and dear to all of us. It's a serious tone. It's something that our soldiers are still dealing with to this very day. And in a lot of ways, specifically with the VA being a hunk of junk. I mean, we should prioritize our veterans first and foremost. But, so we all try to make light of it. I think this movie suffers, in spite of Tom Cruise. I think that a lot of the things that he was given to work with, whether it's, like I said, the music or the acting or the lighting or whatever, those are the elements that took me out of it. By no means I don't want to be on the record as saying that I'm not taking, this performance seriously or what our veterans go through seriously or anything like that. I think that that Tom Cruise, dealing with the PTSD and his stance on the America that he came home to post Kent State during the Summer of Love, when everybody was protesting the war, that was all done very, very well. But then, you get these moments like shortly thereafter where he has his Forrest and Jenny moment with him and Keira Sedgwick, where he goes and meets up with her. I think that was pretty much right after this, or it was either right before or right after, where he was all, kind of still disillusioned Tom Cruise and or Ron Kovic, not wispy mustache, hippie Ron Kovic. So,
well, it was right after, actually. It was right after, because right after that scene, there's the scene where the young Frank Whaley, when Ron is being brought down from the stage, young Frank Whaley runs up and he's like, "Hey, buddy,"
He was surprisingly good.
Yeah, he was good too. And they actually
him out of there. He takes him out of there, if I recall.
Yeah, he basically runs up, says, "Hey, what's up, buddy?" Because he served as well. So I don't believe they were in the same company, but they both served. So he basically gets him out of there, goes back home with him. And then Ryan, to your point, Tom Cruise was really good in this. And the thing about this role is you really expect a good enough actor to nail the loud parts, right? So when the actor gets his, towards the end when Ron gets drunk and he's screaming with his mom, right? A lot of actors are going to nail that part. But what I really love is how Tom Cruise nails some of the more understated parts, especially earlier on. So this scene in particular is one that I'm talking about, where he's in the back and he's reminiscing with Frank Whaley's character. And again, instead of being an over-the-top, super melodramatic scene, it's very sort of reflective and contemplative and illustrative of the fact that Ron is, as I mentioned before, confused by this response. He doesn't really understand why he just doesn't have 100% unequivocal support. And I do want to play that for our listeners real quick.
Sure.
And we'll come back and continue talking about that.
When I was in the hospital, I thought, yeah, this makes sense.
What makes sense?
Because I failed, Timmy.
What are you talking about?
Because I killed some people. I made some terrible mistakes.
Ronnie, Christ's sakes, we all made mistakes. I mean, you had no choice. That's something them goddamn pansy demonstrators ain't never gonna understand. Now, look, Ronnie, you don't even gotta talk about it. I mean, it was insane over there. It was crazy.
Sometimes I wish I'd... First time I got hit, I was shot in the foot. I could have laid down. I mean, who gives a fuck now if I was a hero or not? I was paralyzed, castrated that day. Why? So stupid. I have my dick and my balls now, and I think, Timmy, I give everything I believe in, everything I got, all my values, just to have my body back again, just to be whole again. I'm not whole. I never will be, and that's the way it is, isn't it?
For Christ's sake, Ronnie, it's your birthday. You're alive. You made it. Smile.
So once again, really showing that Tom Cruise has range. He's able to hit the low reflective parts just as much as the loud, high aggressive parts. And Ryan, to your point, Tom Cruise, Javan, you actually brought this up earlier about how, most of us know Tom Cruise as sort of like the action star, right? He's the guy that, runs to stuff and he runs away stuff. But there are a handful of performances where he gets to play against that type. I know I can think of a couple. Are there any historical Tom Cruise performances, Javan, that come to mind outside of this one where that you could compare it to, where it was just outside of his normal action persona?
I was actually talking to Ryan about Magnolia was one of the weird ones for he wasn't, I guess he was an intense dude, but he wasn't an action star. He's usually the man in most things, and one thing I will say about this particular performance is he really made you feel Ron Kovic's pain with not being able to do certain things, and he did have a whole lot of range, but usually he's the man. He's beating up 4 people, telling you that the other 2 will run away if you beat up 5 people, which is probably true. I can't think of too many times where he gets the opportunity to do what he did here. I think he gets away from it because a lot of his other movies, he does not get this opportunity. So I was pleasantly surprised.
So real quick, I'll interject and say that he's coming off of Rain Man to do this movie.
Okay.
So
interesting.
He wasn't the action star in that one.
But he was the man, so to speak.
Oh, no. Yeah. He wasn't
if he had played Rain Man, now that would be range.
Right. That's fair. You do have to wonder, though, like when you start to look at his catalog and you realize... I like to almost take him out of context and look at the directors that he's worked with, even more so than the roles that he's played. So then you start to tally up all the things he's probably learned. I mean, when you work with a Scorsese or, an Oliver Stone or someone like that, you start to learn a lot. So, like Color of Money was Scorsese, right? And then Top Gun was Tony Scott. You got A Few Good Men, you've got The Firm. These are all movies that were directed by, huge directors. Even Interview with the Vampire, as Lestat. So there's, there's a lot of meat on the bone of his acting career when you start to pull it apart. He gets deduced because I think in the 90s, when he started getting those big paydays of $20 million, he turned into Mission Impossible guy real fucking quick.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, it was the John Grisham movies, man. It was The Firm.
Yeah.
Like once he got a taste of that like mainstream acceptance and that mainstream paycheck, it was over.
That's
and then the whole Scientology
Tom
journey
Cruise
began.
Movie for me.
What's that?
He ran all over that thing.
Yeah.
I'd like to change my answer, actually. Interview with a Vampire was pretty great Tom Cruise for me.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
Oh, okay. To this day, I've still never seen that movie. I always assumed that was a movie that you didn't watch if you had a Y chromosome, but I suppose I stand corrected.
You've seen JFK 5 times, and you can't give Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise as vampires a shot?
Yeah, no, dude, because like they're like trying to get with like 13-year-old Kirsten Dunst, which like 19-year-old Kirsten Dunst doesn't do it for me.
She was a vampire. She was ageless.
You would know if you saw the movie, bro.
Doesn't count if you ask for her ID. She was like 416.
Jason, he was also in Jerry Maguire and Eyes Wide Shut. These are all kind of subdued, kind of mellow performances. So.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess for me, I do really enjoy Jerry Maguire. To Javan's point, though, he's still kind of like, he's like the man, right? Even if he's not necessarily like a brooding action star, he's definitely like in control, so, but yeah, I think that, interesting. So I was going to say that, like, I think that my favorite sort of non-traditional Tom Cruise performance is definitely his in Magnolia. But as I'm saying it out loud, I think it's probably because it's kind of a dissection of those roles, right? Like if you figure that like Tom Cruise plays the man, like in Magnolia, he's playing like, you don't call it a sex therapist, right? But he's like one of those guys who's like, hey, hey guys, this is how you slay any woman, right? And that would be like the sort of like the ultimate machismo, right? Like taken to like this advanced, like almost even absurd degree, right? But as we get in movies that really examine these types of characters, we find out that he's broken and, there's a lot more depth and layering to that character in that film. So that's definitely what I think of. But yeah, these other roles that you're talking about, he does. So yeah, it was really cool to see him be vulnerable in this film.
How many years ago was it that he challenged himself in that way?
Oh yeah, dude, that was what? That was the that was the wonderful year of 1999. I remember this specifically, don't you, Ryan? So that was what, literally 21 years ago here.
Last
we've had
episode, 20 years of him lowering himself through suspension ropes. That's why I have a hard time remembering.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. So, and then as the movie continues, Ron starts slipping, he's not doing so well. He's getting way too drunk, way too often, starting fights in bars, coming home to his mom, who forbids his drinking, and having this dramatic yelling scene that I referred to earlier, where, he basically tells her to go fuck herself, and she basically throws him out of the house, and gets very offended when he uses the word penis under her roof, and that whole thing.
Oh, man, when his 17 brothers heard that word, they lost their stuff, boy. She told him, don't you dare say that word in the house.
And then he just doubled down on penis, penis, penis. And that was it, dude. We can put up with all this other crap, but when you say penis, that's it. You're out, kid. Ain't no room for that here.
His dad said it's time to go to Mexico if you have to use those kind of words.
You can't say it 3 times or penis juice shows up.
Well, yeah, and he seemed to down in Mexico because, that was definitely a bit on the hedonistic side, I think that was actually Hedonism 3. You guys know that what is it?
The
Singles Resort
edition,
Hedonism and Hedonism 2?
Yeah. I mean, do you guys want to go?
Yeah, dude, no.
Looked like a fucking good time.
So Ron goes to Mexico, and while we're there, we get a visit from our good friend, Mr. Willem Dafoe. Always a pleasure to see his face.
I have it in my notes with 4 exclamation points. Hey, Dafoe's here.
Now it's a party.
Love that dude.
Yeah, no. He is always the guest of honor.
Did you guys know that he was in a chair when you first saw him?
I don't remember.
I mean, he was sitting down. Why did you?
No, I was kind of surprised when I saw that everyone down in Mexico seemed like they were on the same thing, which was they were roaming around terrorizing people. They were like a motorcycle gang, but, less good at fighting. But it didn't stop them from fighting.
Less motorized cycling, more manual power.
Yeah, but they were doing all kinds of stuff. They're picking up women. They were drinking. It was quite the scene.
Yeah, they were getting rowdy.
His dad told him to do it.
Yeah, they were some salty dogs down there for sure. They were definitely not on their best behavior. And yeah, so I guess Willem Dafoe, he's this guy Charlie, and if there can be a leader of this group of these people down there, I guess it would be him. If he's not the leader, he's certainly at least the most vocal and the most aggressive and the most in your face about what's going on. And it was kind of interesting because I guess this kind of lends itself to my point about, we were talking about how this film kind of just checks off a lot of boxes, which is like, I really enjoyed this scene, specifically because we got Willem Dafoe and the interplay between him and Tom Cruise's character, but it didn't 100% feel wholly necessary to the film. It does kind of seem like a scene, like if you got rid of it, would the film be the same? I think it kind of might. What do you guys think?
The scene meaning him going to Mexico in like all of that? They could have just cut all that out, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the idea was supposed to be that he came away from Mexico having learned a lesson, but I didn't really get that. And so the way that this scene plays out, it's almost kind of just like a diversion of sorts than it is crucial to his arc.
I took it like he was run out of his own country by our own citizens, the people that he felt like he went overseas to go fight for our values and our freedoms. So that other people could be free like us. And then when he came back, he was run out of his own country into Mexico, which is the only place that he felt that he could regain his sanity. And through Willem Dafoe's character, he was able to kind of collect himself. I also think when he started to be around other people like himself, he started to see a little more about how that looked. And he was having to deal with himself. Willem Dafoe was kind of holding a mirror up to himself because he was kind of the same going through the same things and in the same period of his life. Odd to name your Vietnam vet character Charlie. I
thought I was the only one. I was scared. I thought that was going to be very confusing.
I was waiting for that to be a PTSD trigger where someone across the bar said, "Hey, Charlie," and then everyone's like, "Oh shit," and it jumps out of their wheelchair. Not cool, bro. He'd be the first one we voted off the island. So we got to get rid of Charlie, man. He's triggering people left and right. So, anyways,
I think I'd go by Chuck.
Yeah, Chuck all the way.
That would have been much better, yeah.
But when Tom Cruise comes back to the U.S., he comes back more focused and driven. We have that fight scene with him and Dafoe, which I'm sure we're going to get to. We all need to talk about that. That's just bananas.
Perfect time, Ryan. I'll tell you what.
Is this before or after the brothel? Do we know?
I think it's after. I think right after this, we get back to the United States.
The brothel was kind of interesting as well. Where Tom Cruise, in the midst of trying to party with his wheelchair gang, goes up and gets with a Mexican prostitute to do something, and I think that's a big part of his frustration. Right. Is that he's not able to participate with some of the swarthy Mexican festivities that all his buddies are able to.
Right. Yeah. It seemed like he was coming to terms with his own demons a little bit there. And, he has a good cry and he's able to finally face that, some of the physical challenges that he's up against. And, she holds him and cradles him and lets him get it all out.
She motorboats him.
And and then he's able to come back down, in a different frame of mind a little bit. And
as we always do.
As we always do after a good motorboating.
Absolutely. That is a good point. Now, I do actually have a clip that I'm going to play of the fight that Dafoe and Tom Cruise have on the way to the brothel. Let's listen real quick.
What are we going to do now?
Fuck them.
Yeah, sure. How are we going to get out of here?
Fuck them all. Fuck the horse. Fuck the cab drivers. Fuck Mexico. Fuck Nixon, fuck Vietnam, fuck them all.
Yeah, Charlie, but how are we gonna get out of here?
They made me kill babies, man. Little good babies. You ever have to kill a baby?
Yeah. Okay, come on. We'll get a ride. We gotta get back to the villa.
Fuck you!
Gotta get back to the villa.
What do you mean, okay? What do you mean, okay? You ever have to kill a baby? You ever have to kill a little goop baby?
What the fuck do you know what I did?
I didn't think so. I didn't think so. You're full of shit.
No, you are. The fuck? Leave me the fuck alone. You're nuts, you know that? You're nuts. The fucking sun is going down. What do you know what the fuck comes out here at night? We gotta get out of here.
Don't shit me, Coleman. You never killed a baby. You never had to kill a baby because you never put your soul into that war. You never put your soul on the line, man.
How do you know? How the fuck do you know? Maybe I killed babies. Maybe I killed more babies than you did, you fuck! Maybe I killed a whole bunch of babies, but I don't talk about it. I don't have to talk about it.
Why not? Why the fuck not? What are you hiding? What are you, better than anybody else? You a hero? Is that where you are? Maybe you got a whole bunch of fucking medals, but deep down, you know you're full of shit. You never fought that war. You weren't even there, man.
What the fuck do you mean I wasn't there, man? What do you mean?
Come on, hero, come clean.
Why should I?
What the fuck are you hiding?
I'm not hiding nothing. You're the one that's hiding down here in Mexico. You're the one that's hiding. What are you hiding from, you whiny fuck?
Don't shit me. You never killed a baby, anybody, anything, did you, Kovic? Did you?
Did you?
Did you?
Did you?
You ever look at yourself in the fucking mirror?
Did you?
Fuck you.
You?
No. You! Fuck you!
No, fuck you!
Now, one of the things that I will say that I really liked about this sequence, even in spite of maybe not right away understanding the narrative implications, is that there's a really subtle change up of the filmmaking style. It's very similar to the previous sequence in the infirmary towards the beginning of the film, but it's not as over your head. But if you really pay attention to this whole sequence in Mexico, you start to notice that he's utilizing close-ups, Stone that is, for example, and he's like dropping certain frames when he's showing these people's fragmented state of minds. The lighting gets really distinctive. We start to see a lot more like shallow depth of field, that sort of changing perspectives. And it didn't beat you over the head with it as much as Oliver Stone should, really, at the end of the day, like we've talked about earlier. So,
right.
But if you look for it, it's there. And I thought that was really effectively done. I appreciated that.
I agree. Like I said earlier, I like all this middle stuff. I liked, the everything from the VA hospital through Mexico. I think I was all in for. There were moments that took me out of it.
That's a good chunk of the movie, dude. That's like, what, an hour and a half, an hour 45? That's a good chunk of the movie, bro.
Out of a 2 hour and 40-minute movie. I mean, I never went on record as saying I did not like this movie. I just thought that a lot of the acting was I thought a lot of the acting was a little hammy and this and that. But getting back to this fight scene, because getting back to this fight scene, because I have to talk about this.
Wheelchair fight.
Dude, couple things. Number one, Jason, you were with me for The Lighthouse. You have to. This is the kill a baby monologue version of the Hark Triton monologue that Willem Dafoe gives, right? Like, this is same. He brought some Hark Triton energy to this, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah. So now this is kind of funny because you're right. From a performance perspective, it was really good, but I kind of even felt like this more so than the Mexico scene, which was like, why does this scene exist in his arc? Like, is it just that he finally got that weight off of his chest, which allowed him to move forward? Because the family doesn't really forgive him. And, it just kind of, again, it felt like a scene where it's like, if you take that out, does it change the movie as much? So it sounds like...
Again, I really kind of felt like he was confronting himself. Like Willem Dafoe was a version of himself that was going through the same thing. And so by him yelling at him and them getting it all out, and then they end up, don't they end up on the ground at some point? They're all exhausted and out of their wheelchairs and whatnot. I feel like they just got it out of their system.
They both fight the cab driver. They get ejected into the desert, and then they fight each other until they're both rolling around without their wheelchairs.
Yeah. That's the scene we just listened to.
But I think it's like the scene in Star Wars where Luke has to face himself, dark version of himself before he can move forward.
That's exactly
that's kind of what I got from that.
Yep.
Yeah.
On Dagobah. This is Dagobah. Mexico is Dagobah. So I will also add that there was a cut where 1 minute they were in the back of that cab, and the next minute they were on the side of the road in their wheelchairs. And what they didn't show you is there was probably about, without exaggeration, 20 minutes of getting them out, getting their wheelchairs set up, putting them in their wheelchairs. That was really awkward for that cab driver.
But what a nice guy. I mean, he probably helped them get into their, like, you can't stay in here. You guys are beating me up from the back seat. Because they were rowdy. They were like, if you got within grappling distance, they were going to snatch you up. Like,
yeah. You thought the cooler heads would have prevailed by then, but nope.
Dude, that's hilarious. Do you think it was like a game? Do you think it was like a game on, game off situation where they're like all like raging at each other, bro? And then the taxi driver's like, "All right, you guys are out," and they're like, "Okay, game out," and they were just silent for like the 22 minutes it took. And then as soon as he drives away, "Game on, fuck you, bro."
Those are the bonus scenes I need to see.
William Dafoe stayed in character. He made them carry him.
Excellent. Yeah, and from here we're pretty much advancing on to, more or less the third act of the film. This is where he's going to finally take that final transition in terms of his character arc and end up where he ends up. So Ron has decided that he is going to... It's 1972 now. Ron's decided he's going to march in a demonstration alongside other vets against Nixon and the Vietnam War. And they are actually able to get inside the actual convention itself, and they're protesting the war from inside the convention, and they managed to get on TV. There's a bunch of people and security guards and all these, conservatives are getting ready to throw them out, and the TV reporter is able to like muscle her way in there and get some questions. And of course, once he starts talking and he's on TV, they're not going to cut off or cut away. So, and then from there, he actually goes on a very impassioned and spirited defense, decrying the reasons for the involvement in the war and the treatment of the soldiers and the veterans. I also have a clip of that I'm going to play. Let's go ahead and listen to that real quick.
My name is Ron Kovic. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm here tonight to say that this war is wrong, that this society lied to me, it lied to my brothers, deceived the people in this country, tricked them into going 13,000 miles to fight a war against the poor peasant people who have a proud history of resistance, who have been struggling for their own independence for 1,000 years, the Vietnamese people. I can't find the words to express how the leadership of this government sickens me. Now, people say, if you don't love America, then get the hell out. Well, I love America. We love the people of America very much, but when it comes to the government, it stops right there. The government is a bunch of corrupt thieves, they are rapists and robbers, and we are here to say that we don't have to take it anymore. We're not. We are here to say, we are here to tell the truth. They are killing our brothers in Vietnam. We want them to hear the truth tonight. We are here to tell the truth.
Now, upon completion of this interview, he's basically labeled a traitor by all these Republicans at this convention. He's arrested by police, and he's dragged outside to where all of the various liberal protesters are. Now, when they see the way that Ron is being treated by the police, who are just dragging him out, and they've got him out of his chair and all of this, they basically storm the barricade and storm the police and Ron and free him and get him out of there. And what's also a very interesting note is that when this whole thing is happening, like when the protesters said beat down the police, get Ron back, and it's just kind of mayhem outside, the swelling John Williams score comes back, right? It's like a very sort of inspirational song that's playing as they're sort of protesting. So it's interesting to see Oliver Stone reinforce the fact that in terms of Ron's character arc, this is him evolving. This would be considered a positive, arc of growth as it relates to Ron, which is interesting from a political standpoint in terms of, because he's sort of, I to this day, dude, I don't really know what Oliver Stone's politics are. I don't know if you guys do. Sometimes he seems so incredibly liberal and sometimes he seems so incredibly conservative. And I don't know if he's just completely anti-government and it just depends on who's in power.
Yeah, that's my take.
It seems the way that he portrays the police and their hippie beating, and even the way that they warm up their batons. I don't know if you noticed the police waiting.
Yes, definitely. Good point.
They're beating their batons against their hands as if to show we're ready to club.
Yeah,
some
they can't
hippies.
wait to bust some skulls.
I don't think that he's showing them in a good light with the way they show the police. That's just the way it seems.
Yeah, I think he's just anti-establishment.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Damn the man.
And I do. The other thing that I love about that scene is I really love the callback to the very beginning when he was rescued by a fellow soldier in the war, and he is now rescued by a fellow protester. And, they make sure that it's done exactly the same way with, the get on the back and the roll over, get him on the shoulders. So that was a really
even in the
powerful
sound design
moment.
and everything. It sounds very similar to that battlefield where he was hauled out too.
Yeah, and so that was one of the things that I really appreciated about this film is, the way that they would show you something up front that was a little, to use Javan's favorite word, ham-fisted. But then by the end of it, we get a nice little callback and it resonates because of that, So whether it's the second parade, contrasted to the first, whether it's this protest war scene contrasted with, his experience in Vietnam, there's a lot of these subtle callbacks and parallels that get made that sort of justify both ends, the sort of overwroughtness of the beginning and, what I feel is less of it towards the back half anyway.
I agree.
Yeah, so
I think that might be one of the reasons why I don't like the first half of the movie is because I don't know that I'm being set up for these callbacks. I think I'm just watching this movie. I'm watching this information that I don't care for as much, and then when I see it at the end, it hits a little harder.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So maybe I don't like Oliver Stone movies because I only watch the first half and fall asleep.
Gotta stick around for those callbacks, bro. Yeah. Well, and then from there we get the final scene, which is, Ron is a guest of honor at the 1976 Democratic National Convention, and he's all dressed up in his Sunday's finest and his soldier's outfit with his medals and whatnot. And, he gets wheeled, or he wheels himself anyways, down the carpet towards the stage. The one thing that I did think, I was certain that he was going to get like his climactic third act speech. I did think that the movie was going to go out with him getting on stage and getting like 4 to 7 solid minutes to just sermonize, and then everyone would clap and the movie would end that way. But it ends right before that moment.
I think his version of that was supposed to be the mid-riot huddle where they all kind of regroup, and we're kind of, it was after the last riot where he gets arrested. There's kind of a mid-riot huddle where everybody asks him how to proceed, I suppose, and they have kind of a ready break moment. I think that was supposed to be it, but I'm definitely the novice here.
Yeah, and again, I actually was surprised that I thought it was a great film. Like, I'll go on record as saying that. So, Javan, you probably know, because you've listened to the show before, that we like to end each film segment with a little feature called 3 Adjectives, where we give our 3 adjectives that we think best describe the film. As our esteemed guest of honor on today's show, I'm going to let you have first crack. What were your 3 adjectives for Born on the 4th of July?
I will say that it was gritty, educational, and man, I'm stuck on the third. I will say nostalgic. Only because I didn't want to take Ham-Fisted.
Appreciate you, buddy.
It was right there, dude. That's why I gave it to you first, because whoever takes them first, the other person can't follow up. So, but you didn't take it, which means I guess Ryan, it's gonna be there for you if you want it. What you got for us, buddy?
First word, ham-fisted. Look, my 3 adjectives are in fact ham-fisted, powerful, and a bummer. And let me go ahead and explain a little bit. I think this movie at its best is fantastic. The highest moments in the film where Tom Cruise is excelling and everything is firing on all cylinders is great. There was a lot to love about this movie. There was a lot to not like about this movie as well. Like I said, the family's overacting, some of the Wonder Years kind of drama that they play out, and all of the dated stuff. They take a long time to get to through some of the messaging. There was a traumatic scene we didn't talk about where Tom Cruise trades his closure for the family's in exchange for the family's closure whose son he killed in Vietnam. That was kind of a really awkward thing to show us, where Tom Cruise admits to them, they were sold a bill of goods that their son died in honor and valor, and then Tom Cruise goes and says, guess what? I killed him. And they're like, wait, what? You don't? And they tell him several times, like, you don't have to tell us this. So there were some hard to watch moments. Yeah. Also the Forrest and Jenny moment with Kira Sedgwick, where she's like, you want to come with me? And then all of a sudden his wheelchair wheel hits a curb, and we do a close-up on that. And then right behind her is a whole flight of stairs. So there was kind of these visual tells that I thought were kind of beating me over the head with certain things, like he can't go where she's going because there's stairs there. It's like, no, I fucking get it. Like, and they're all well lit and wet, like, hey, but see the stairs? It's like, yeah, no, I see it, Oliver. I get it. I don't know.
But somehow he was upstairs in the Mexican brothels with no problem.
Yeah. Well, for 20 pesos, you get carried, I guess. I don't know.
That is funny, though. You know what? To your point, he does kind of seem sometimes like an artist who's like not exactly sure if you caught what he did, so he's just gonna like bring a little more attention to it, right? Like,
right? Yeah.
Oh, you didn't catch the way that his wheel hit the curb. All right, cool. Well, here's a flight of stairs, just to make sure. Just gonna put that there.
Just to bring it on home. Right. And I felt like the whole first part where he's a kid was, you know, kind of like that too, like the Yankees hat. It's like, we get it. Like
American.
Just all of it.
Massapequa.
You know? Yeah.
Massapequa.
Represent Massapequa. Long Island.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and throw out my 3 adjectives here. So first one is that I thought it was a pretty expansive film. You know, we talked about how it sort of like checks off a lot of boxes, tells this guy's entire story, goes from America to Vietnam to back, RNC, DNC, all of that.
Mexico.
So yeah, Mexico told a big story. This is kind of a hyphenated, as we sometimes do, well acted. So it was just consistently across the board. It was a really, really well acted film, which I think does heighten a lot of it, you know, especially when you do have some of the more problematic elements of Oliver Stone being ham-fisted, right? But, you know, at the same time, the actors are able to sort of bring it up as well, and I think that at least it allows for a cohesive experience, even if it's not necessarily always authentic, so to speak. And the third adjective that I have is assured. I think that this is... You may not necessarily like the decisions that Oliver Stone made. You may find them to be a little bit silly or lacking in artistic merit, whatever your reasons. But this dude did nothing but make very specific decisions all along the way.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
He's cocksure
as a leader,
for real.
Yeah. He knew exactly what he wanted, right? Like from the, you know, red, white, and blue color scheme to, you know, amping everything up to 11. Like you can just almost sort of see him behind the scenes, like giving direction to like the 26th extra in the crowd, right? Like, all right, dude, you're a little flat. We need to see you bring it up. And so
yeah,
I definitely get the sense that this was a labor of love. It was a film that, you know, he cared about. He knew what he was doing. I think that whether you love it, hate it, or find yourself somewhere in the middle, Oliver Stone made exactly the film that he set out to make. And so, you know, that's there's value in that for sure.
Definitely. A couple things we didn't cover. Everybody was someone in this movie. I don't know if you scroll down the cast list on IMDb.
Oh, yeah, that was crazy.
There were so many actors in this movie. People you wouldn't even think about. Javan Oy, who was, I think, Blossom's sidekick from back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
6. She was 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rocky Carroll from Rock.
You got Tom Berenger. The real Abby Hoffman was in this movie from the 60s. The writer and protester.
Oliver Stone was in this movie.
I was going to say, did you see the Oliver Stone cameo? Did you catch that?
Cameo.
Yep.
Yeah, there were a lot of people. Every time you turn a corner, there's someone. Edie Brickell was the guitar player in the bar singing old folk songs. So, yeah, everybody was someone in this movie. I thought that was, this cast was full.
Definitely. It was a lot of fun. Now, Ryan, one thing I just remembered, too, that I want to go back to, do a little callback of our own here real quick, right before we slap our formal ratings on this, which is you mentioned earlier about how a lot of the songs were like covers instead of using like the original artist masters, etc.
Yeah.
So you saying that, it's funny because I had actually seen when I was doing a little bit of research that this movie went way over budget. And so they ended up having to spend like an additional like $14 million or something like that to get it finished.
Wow.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was one of the concessions. It was like, all right, Oliver, you don't get the originals anymore. You're taking my brother doing a cover and you're going to like it because this is way too much money. He's like, all right.
Yeah, I definitely, and that's what I thought when I was watching it, is like they definitely spent a lot of, I mean, you could see production value other places. I guess they filmed all the Vietnam stuff over in the Philippines. So they went over there, which I guess is where he filmed Platoon. So he had connections and stuff there and knew some locations. So, but that's not cheap, when you start filming out of country like that. So yeah, I definitely.
But they saved a little bit of money with the Robert Rodriguez special effects on the tent of people that they accidentally massacred. There's lots of ketchup and carob syrup and all that other stuff.
A lot of close-ups. Yeah.
They did have a real Filipino baby.
Yeah.
There you go. Authenticity. All right. It is time to slap a formal rating on this. Now, Javan, I don't know which side you're going to end up on, because if you've listened to the show, you know that Ryan gives the grade ratings and I give the star ratings. So once again, I'm going to let you kick off our formal rating and tell us if you're going to give a grade rating or star rating. Star ratings out of 5, grade rating A through F. What you got?
I was going to give it 4 out of 5 thumbs up. I didn't know about the gray out of... I was going to give it
standards.
Yes, octopus standard. When I first found out that we were going to watch this movie, I did not look forward to it because of the subject matter. But as Oliver Stone does tell this story, and even as I recount it with you guys, there are certain parts that he really does beautifully. When they set up the nostalgia of Massapequa and show you Tom's virility, which that's the whole first part of the movie is his virility. But they tell the story very well for me, and I ended up liking the movie despite Oliver Stone's best efforts. Of course, I said on record that it would have been better with Arnold Schwarzenegger as the lead.
Stand
we
by
remake every other movie. Maybe we'll remake this one. But I really like the way that he told the story. I will give it 4 out of 5 thumbs up so that I don't steal either of your ratings.
All right, there you
That's
go.
pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. Ryan,
That's a
grade
solid
rating. Go,
4
buddy.
out of 5.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this a right down the middle B. I think that at its best it excelled, and at its worst, kind of lost me. I think it was inconsistent. I think that was my problem from getting in the A range. But there was a lot to love about this movie, and like I said, we try to make this podcast entertaining and all of that, and poke our jokes. But in the end, it was a powerful message, and there were moments that really struck home with me. Dealing with our veterans and stuff. That's something I just can't believe we still haven't figured that out yet. But why we don't treat them the way that they deserve. But anyway, I think that was the whole message that Oliver Stone was driving home, is that you can hate the man, you can stick it to the man and hate the authoritarianism of the government and the people pulling the strings. Something we didn't even talk about, Jason, that I have to, I'm sorry to kind of steal the show here for just a second, but
no, please.
Before I pass it to you, which I'm going to do here right now, did you get any Paths of Glory vibes from this? We didn't even talk about that. There's some strict Paths of Glory vibes from this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with regards to just any sort of film like this that is critical of the government, but also supportive of the troops, and I think that's ultimately what your message is right now. It's right. It's entirely possible to be critical of a war and be critical of a military and be critical of a government, but also still be supportive of the soldiers that are fighting those wars specifically.
Correct. I agree.
So I think Paths of Glory had a similar message in that respect. And so I could definitely see that. Obviously, the films are 30, 40 years apart, and Kubrick's a very different filmmaker than Stone, but in their own ways, they definitely deliver a similar message. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, but you could totally see Nixon and Agnew twirling mustaches in overstuffed chairs, just like the two dudes from Paths of Glory, right? In the room at the beginning when they're talking about, we're going to take the anthill and I'll give you a commendation. Oh, cool, blah, 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 I don't know.
No, yeah, definitely. And it's like we said too, that's... Most filmmakers are rebellious sorts, right? They're never going to show, the two presidents who are sitting there, just with the good of the country in their hearts trying to do what's right. Nah, dude, they're always going to be these corrupt assholes who are trying to take advantage of the little guy for their own means. And so, we're definitely going to see a lot more of that in other films, I'm sure. Probably films that are on one of our lists. So I'll go ahead and formalize my rating. Like I said, I thought it was a really good movie. It's probably my third favorite Oliver Stone movie, behind JFK and Natural Born Killers. So I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. I thought it was really solid. I went into all the different reasons, and for the things that I didn't like about it, we're still motivated. Like I said, the sort of exaggerated, overly patriotic beginnings set up a lot of what we are going to see as criticisms towards the end. And I don't think that either end would have been effective without the other either preceding or following it. So for Oliver Stone, man, it's a good one.
Awesome.
do want to remind everybody that we've got a couple different social media accounts that you can go ahead and follow us on. The first is the old Instagram. We've got a really artsy little Instagram. It's got some fun quotes from the show. We've got some really cool posters of the different movies that we've discussed on the different episodes. So you can follow us on Instagram at Esoterica Cinema. And then you can have some fun with us on Twitter at Esoterica Cinema. Keep it to 280 characters. We're pretty active on the Twitter in terms of, engagement. So Instagram, we're not going to do a lot of conversing on, but if you want to talk to us about anything that's come up on the show, if you want to talk to us about any of our different opinions on various movies, anything we specifically talked about on Born of the 4th of July, if you're having an awesome muffin and you need somebody to talk to about that, you can go ahead and hit us up on Twitter.
God, will someone tell Jason about the muffin?
Look, dude, Ryan, everybody loves muffins, and so many people want to discuss this awesome muffin that they're having, but there's nobody around to entertain them because they don't appreciate how good a quality muffin is. And I'm simply letting people know that when they have such an inkling, they can reach out to us on Twitter to tell us about said muffin. Or maybe you really want to talk about muffins, but you don't have Twitter. Good news, we've got email. You can hit us up on Gmail. That's esotericacinema@gmail.com. We equally give credence to chocolate and lemon muffins, as well as vanilla frostings. We can go back and forth on. Regardless,
if there's
hit us
frosting,
up about those muffins.
I'm pretty sure if there's frosting, it turns into a cupcake. I don't know the difference between the two, but I think
you know what?
that's
Yeah,
it.
No, that's a pretty good point.
This is also a nice segue to plug Jason and I's second podcast, Muffin to Say, where Jason and I talk at length about muffins. So you can find us at Muffin to Say.
Go to your podcast directory, look up The Muffin Men. You will see pictures of Ryan and myself getting really deep into the intricacies of muffins, densities, layers. We go really deep down the muffin rabbit hole, and that's not a euphemism.
So deep.
All right, so Javan, we're gonna do something here.
I'm so glad to know the Muffin Man. So glad to know the Muffin Man.
I got muffin to say about any of that.
Oh, Ryan coming through with the puns. My man. My muffin man. All right. Okay, so we're actually going to do something we haven't done for the half-episodes before on this episode, and that's that we have decided that there's really no reason that the half-episodes shouldn't be randomized the same way that the full episodes are. So right now, we are actually going to announce our next half-episode movie, and we're going to pull the number and the film live on air. So as we do, we go to our true random number generator, courtesy of random.org, and yes, they pay us handsomely to plug them to our 12 listeners. And we've got 50 movies, a nice round 50 movies for the half-episode list. I think the main list is up to about 150, 155 or so right now. But we figured that, make it a nice round number for the half-episode list. I'm going to click roll the dice, Ryan.
Please be JFK. Please be JFK.
We have got as our number 49. Now, when I come over here, it's really not that far up from the bottom. At 50 is Willow, which just missed out. 48 is Three Kings, which just missed out. But I'm actually quite excited because next episode, we are going to be looking at David Cronenberg's Videodrome.
Yes!
Ryan, I saw this once when I was like 19. I literally remember nothing about it. I may as well have never seen this movie before for all intents and purposes.
I remember he inserts a videotape into a woman's stomach at some point who absorbs it. Deborah Harry's in this from Blondie as well as the female lead. Yeah, weird movie.
Yeah. So I think the only image that I remember is the one of him putting his hand up on the TV, which is like on literally the cover of the album or the DVD. So like that's the only reason I even remember that. So yeah, gonna be an awesome episode and definitely gonna be a little bit different flavor than what you got here today with Born on the 4th of July, needless to say. So
and crazy ass James Woods in his element. So yeah, weird ass movie. I think this predates The Fly, right? Isn't this before?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. Absolutely, yeah. So
this is early.
So that's gonna be crazy. Yep, when he was still kind of going through a lot of his like body horror type stuff.
Yeah, I'm all in.
So, me too. So hey, Javan, thanks so much for coming up and joining us on this episode, man. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you so much for having me. Big fan of the show. And I really, really love being a part of it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we'll have to make this happen again for sure. This was a great time.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So, and then also listeners, just want to let you know, we don't do a lot of pimping on this show, as you see, but it does help us if you give us the subs. So whether you follow us on Spotify, whether you subscribe to us on Apple or Stitcher, Google, whatever it is, one of the best ways you can support us if you do dig the show is just give us those subs and obviously just let people know, spread the word. Word of mouth is our favorite form of promotion. We don't really do a lot of advertising. We just kind of want to let it grow organically. And we know that we exist in a small space for film nerds, and we're happy to fill that space. But that being said, the best thing you can do to support us is just go ahead and give us the subs, follow us on the socials, and reach out, man. I mean, if any of you, want to get on the show, there might be some room to, read an email or even have you on for a couple minutes. Don't be afraid. We love interacting with our audience, with you guys. We wouldn't do it without you guys. So thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode of Esoterica Cinema.
When was the last time you let go? Broke free from your day-to-day routine? Felt the sand between your toes under the vanilla sky? Listened to the ocean and felt the sun on your face? It's time to run away with Tom Cruise Lines. Enjoy week-long vacations around the islands. Aboard ship, you'll enjoy all kinds of fun activities and be surrounded by action. Eat your way to the danger zone at one of our 5 dining experiences.
Second, put food on the table!
Sorry, Tom.
That's it! No apologies!
Don't worry, you'll burn off those calories with fun. Grab a friend, grease up, and chest bump your way to paradise at our daily shirtless volleyball tournament. On Tom Cruise Lines, you'll have plenty of time to relax as you're waited on by an entire staff catering to your every need.
We are creating thousands of jobs!
That's right, Tom. The staff loves it here, too. Take in the nightlife, where our entire crew joins in a nightly conga line. Everybody dance.
That's it! And you too! And you too!
And you too.
And if you don't do it, you're fired! And I see you do it again, you're gone!
Haha, that's confusing. So come sail with us on Tom Cruise Lines where, despite what you heard, we did not kill those babies.
Maybe I killed more babies than you did, you fuck! Maybe I killed a whole bunch of babies, but I don't talk about it!
Tom Cruise Lines. Can we get legal down here?
From the visionary minds at Aberrant Literature comes a short fiction collection unlike any other. Aberrant Tales, bursting at the seams with stories of creativity, excitement, and wonder. Aberrant Tales takes the very best in modern science fiction, fantasy, and horror, and weaves them into one thrilling, eclectic package. Featuring the works of Ashton Macaulay, M.T. Roberts, Daniel Kurland, and Jason Peters. Aberrant Tales is available today in ebook, hardcover, and paperback versions, online and everywhere books are sold. Published by Aberrant Literature.